You actually were telling the truth.
I do that quite a lot. Your people are always surprised.
To the wrong disabled person one day, and somebody's gonna put one of you goofy motherfuckers on a shirt.
Let me tell y'all something that, like, I feel like y'all do not understand, okay? Disabled people have had it. We have had it. I have literally been told that I should not exist since even before I was born, okay? I have been left behind in every single fire drill, active shooter drill, all those things. So if something happens to me, and it is your fault, listen to me good. I am taking as many with you as I can possibly take. Your name will be printed atop a spray-painted background on a Fruit of the Loom shirt. I swear to God. I'll do it.
McGuire, you are an outfit repeater.
I just took a DNA test. Turns out I'm 100% that bitch.
Folks who hate trans people so much, they literally linking up with a whole white supremacist on the ground.
I've talked about this before, but I feel like it has to be reiterated. Transphobia from black folk, but particularly black women, makes no goddamn sense, just from a logical and self-preservation standpoint. Like, coming from us as a demographic, it literally makes no sense. You mean to tell me that in a society that has historically sterilized black women en masse, you're gonna tie womanhood to birthing? Those laws are still in the books, Buck v. Bell. A society that determines femininity under white supremacist standards that we have never met, you're gonna throw trans women to the wolves? You will never be feminine enough to stave off your own eradication in this society. Has hating trans women stopped black men and non-black people from calling us men? No! Because we will never be feminine enough for any of them. You're supporting laws and policies that will throw trans people to the wolves will lead to your own oppression in a society that will never see you as woman enough.
When you have a new technology come in that makes workers more productive, how do you handle that in our society, in capitalism? Suppose you have a machine that makes every worker twice as productive as they were before. So you used to have 100 workers to produce your output, and you sold it, you're a capitalist. Now you buy a machine, or you replace an old machine with a new machine that makes your workers twice as productive. They can produce twice as much. Okay, what does the capitalist do? Very simple. He fires half his workforce. He has 100 workers, he fires 50. What does he need them for? With the 50 that remain, each one being twice as productive as before, he produces the same number of goods, he sells them, he earns just as much as he did before, but now he doesn't have to take all that money he used to pay the 50 workers that he fired, and he keeps it for himself. Technological advance, good for his profits, bad for those 50 workers and their families who are screwed. Okay, that's how capitalism works. If you know that, you can't be surprised that workers hold back. We don't want this technology, we don't want these new machines, because they feel threatened. Why do they feel threatened? Because they are. Well, what would a worker co-op do? Real simple. Wow, you have machines that are twice as productive. You don't fire anybody. You cut the workday in half. Everybody keeps their job, works half the hours they used to, produces as much in half the hours as before they took double the hours. The real benefit is the workers have half their time off. That's technology that benefits the majority, the workers. In capitalism, technology benefits profits, which go to a tiny minority of the population. The problem has never been technology. The problem has always been capitalism.
In 1951, Iranian Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh had sought to audit the documents of the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, a British corporation now a part of BP. Upon the AIOC's refusal to cooperate with the Iranian government, the parliament voted to nationalize Iran's oil industry and to expel foreign corporate representatives from the country. In response, UK Prime Minister Winston Churchill and the American Eisenhower administration decided in early 1953 to overthrow Iran's government. The democratically elected Mossadegh was overthrown in favor of strengthening the monarchical rule of the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, on 19 August 1953. It was orchestrated by the United States under the name Operation Ajax, and the United Kingdom under the name Operation Boot. Following the coup in 1953, a government under General Fazlollah Zahedi was formed, which allowed Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the last Shah of Iran, to rule more firmly as a monarch. He relied heavily on United States support to hold on to power. According to the CIA's declassified documents and records, some of the most feared mobsters in Tehran were hired by the CIA to stage pro-Shah riots on 19th August. Other men paid by the CIA were brought into Tehran in buses and trucks and took over the streets of the city. Mossadegh was arrested, tried, and convicted of treason by the Shah's military court. On 21st December 1953, he was sentenced to 3 years in jail, then placed under house arrest for the remainder of his life. Other Mossadegh supporters were imprisoned and several received the death penalty. After the coup, the Shah continued his rule as monarch for the next 26 years. This was also the first time the CIA couped a foreign government, and the formula would be used again 1 year later in Guatemala, when it would be perfected.
Black people tried to take control of the Democratic Party and ended up starting the Black Power movement instead.
Because at that point, the racists hadn't gone into the Republican Party. They were all Democrats. They were Southern Democrats.
I'm Garrison Hayes, and this is the Black Defiance mixtape, in partnership with Participant. I think this is one of the great Black resistance moments in American history, and the way it came about matters. In the late summer of 1964, the country was at a turning point, and Black leaders were tired of being left out of important conversations because of racist, segregationist Democrats. So they came up with a plan to force the National Democratic Party, led by President Lyndon B. Johnson, to make a choice. Either cut ties with segregationist Southern Democrats and seat Black leaders from the South as delegates, or run the risk of losing the Black vote. Prominent Black leaders made impassioned speeches at the Democratic National Convention about the morality of the moment, but they fell on deaf ears.
Lyndon Johnson is afraid he's going to lose all of those racist white Democratic senators, Democratic congresspeople.
And it is considered a massive betrayal. They can't count on the Democratic Party to win this for them. They have to be outside of the system in order to win.
Black leaders didn't quit. Instead, they took key steps in starting the Black Power movement.
What they went back understanding was that politics wasn't about morality. Politics was about power.
This is just one of the many incredible moments featured in the new documentary Lowndes County and the Road to Black Power. It's streaming right now on Peacock. Go check it out.
You are someone who proudly identifies with words like bitch, asshole, jerk, whatever. I have a question for you.
So the question is why? Why do you identify like that? And just for me, I think it's funny. I think as a Chinese American woman, I have a bit of a unique perspective because ever since Chinese women were brought to America, we've been hyper feminized and made to be these docile porcelain creatures. And even today, the sexual imperialism and the fetishization is very, very prevalent. And that's how I grew up. I was that stereotype. I was a doormat. So if someone were to call me an asshole or a bitch, it's subvertive of those stereotypes. And I know it's super backhanded and bad or whatever, but it's funny and it makes me think of all the growth that I've done as a person. Because 5 years ago, if you told me 5 + 5 = 4, I would think that I had done the math wrong. And part of this growth that I'm talking about is learning how to not care about what strangers think about me. And so I don't really care if you call me bitch. That's really embarrassing for you. Literally grow up. That's so middle school. I don't know. I just think it's ironic. I think it's funny.
Ne se podigravajti, davaj, brkni poda boko, imaš pari, davaj, ne se saželjavaj, ti si paralija, ne se podigravajti.
The saddest thing I've ever seen.
What's up, gamers? Did you know that people are getting cancelled for streaming the new Wizard game? I think it's pretty safe to say that gamers are the most oppressed group of people on planet Earth. I'm gonna play the Wizard game and create safe spaces for transphobic rhetoric within my comment sections, and there's nothing you can do about it. You see, while I fully support the trans community, I think a lot of what J.K. Rowling has to say isn't that crazy. You see, the thing about the term woman is that biologically speaking,
What did this Paloma I'm about to make an effective leftist strategy have in common? I don't have the perfect ingredients for either. A traditional Paloma is made with tequila, lime juice, and grapefruit soda, but I've just run out of limes and I don't have grapefruit soda. Instead, I'll have to work with what I do have. I can approximate the missing grapefruit soda with a mix of fresh squeezed grapefruit, simple syrup, and club soda. And a lemon, which I do have, will taste slightly different but serve the same basic purpose as the lime. When it comes to leftist strategy, lots of people have specific ideas about how things can or should play out, but none of us have the exact recipe. We are fighting an uphill battle, and we need to take ground however we can. Mutual aid, demonstrations, firearm literacy, and even voting, anything that has a chance to move the needle is a valid tactic. This is not a textbook perfect Paloma, but it's tasty, and it's a whole lot closer than if I hadn't tried it all.
Let me start by what sounds like an outrageous comment. I suspect that every one of you is an anarchist, that is, accepts its fundamental doctrines. There is a core principle behind them. Structures of hierarchy, domination, force are not self-justifying. They have to justify themselves. And if they can't, which is almost always, they should be dismantled. Whether it's a patriarchal family or a labor contract in an enterprise where you become a sort of slave for most of your life. If any such structure of control and domination does not have a justification, it shouldn't exist. If you think it through, these are views that I think almost everybody would accept. Has a bad name, naturally, but people who are in favor of illegitimate hierarchies and domination don't like it.
Hey, are you even paying attention to me right now?
So a group called the Transcultural Mindful Alliance recently tweeted about how the song Natural Woman by Aretha Franklin is supposedly transphobic, leading thousands of people to storm the internet saying very disgusting, hateful things about trans women. What else is new? Only for it to come out that the whole page is satire. It was not even true. And the thing is, this was so obviously bullshit if you looked at the blogs that were posting it, the page that it came from, etc. But we all know that facts don't actually matter when it's time to paint queer people as this rabid group of individuals that are just hypersensitive towards every little issue. Or when y'all have an opportunity to attack trans women, something that y'all love to do for absolutely no motherfucking reason. And to think some of y'all was really responding to this article with, see, this is why I can't support this community. They just do too much. Knowing good and motherfucking well that it don't matter what trans women do. Y'all find issue with them existing and you don't think they have a right to advocate for themselves or their womanhood. So anytime they try, whether it's valid or not, and it's most always valid, y'all gonna bring out the pitchforks. Oh, and even if this was real, some trans people being offended by a song does not cause someone to spew vitriol against all trans people unless that person was already transphobic. Just saying.
Girls always wonder where the nice guys are at. Well, honestly, they're right in front of you, and you know it. But instead, you choose to blame society when you get heartbroken by somebody you knew was going to treat you like.
Here's how you politely and confidently bike through Gibbons Park here in London, Ontario, Canada on a wintry day. Not that we have much winter here, for all those naysayers telling me you can't bike for 6 months of the year in Canada. There's only been like 3 days this year where I was like, nah, it's too cold and snowy today. So I didn't bike. I mean, I could have, but I just waited to do groceries until the next day. Anyway, I ring my bell here far off in the distance for these two ladies to move over. They're not required to, but it is nice of them because it's kind of hard to bike in this. This guy didn't give a shit though. Hey man, I just didn't want to crash into you because turning in the snow is hard. I gave you fair notice because jump scares are not appreciated by most people. As for the conditions of the Thames Valley Parkway, it's not great, but at least it's not snurdy. And here, I turn onto a snurdy road. Dang it, not again!
What are they cooking? I'm not gonna waste time and talk about how maybe the YouTuber who organizes poor person jello fighting competitions where the winner gets a Bugatti might be a weirdo whose charitable acts are purely performative. We all know this whether or not we want to admit it. Billionaires are never going to be charitable out of altruistic wellness spreading. It is always driven by self-serving motive, and that's a hard pill for many to swallow. Wealthy philanthropists benefit from the same issues they aim to fix but don't end up fixing. When they alleviate hardships for those who are lucky enough, ultimately for good press, tax write-offs, and in this case content, people are a little less outraged. The institutions that cause these problems run a balancing act of how much preventable harm could be ignored before riots happen, and billionaires pick up a lot of that slack because they have incentive to protect these systems. And I'm not saying that anybody wants people to be poor and blind forever, but I am saying that poor people who are failed by pro-billionaire institutions and who crave financial stability help these YouTubers make some content. I want to eat that.
It's cool when they do it. It's a problem when she do it. Fuck 'em. No, but in all seriousness, the way that Lori Harvey's dating life has been sensationalized is so weird to me. Because she isn't doing anything differently than the millions of other 20-somethings who choose to date and explore their options. And half the people y'all have assigned to her, once again, are just speculation. Let y'all tell it she done fucked Mario and Luigi. And I've made this point before, but I just want to run it back one time for the one time. I feel that part of the reason this girl gets so much flack for her dating choices is because, number one, she dates high-profile men, so that's a given. And the second reason is that much of what we hear about her contradicts the traditional way that women are taught to navigate dating. They say that women can't date around like men can because we'd get too attached. But Lori appears to be out here trading motherfuckers like the Lakers. They say that no man wants to date or cuff a woman that's promiscuous. But Lori's purported coochie roster hasn't stopped her from being courted by the men that your auntie thirsts over on Facebook. And the thing is, if you listen to the girl speak, she seems to have a very good head on her shoulders when it comes to dating.
My happiness, my peace, not settling for less than what I know I deserve, and not being afraid to walk away from a situation if it's like no longer serving me.
So I struggle to see why there's so much talk. Y'all stay telling women to pick better men, right? Clearly Lori has not found the best, so she just gonna keep picking.
Do you have mirror in Africa? No, sweetie, we don't have any mirror in Africa. In fact, it's quite difficult for us to see our reflection. But luckily for us, once every year, the community hyena comes on heat. And during this period, she drools excessively. Like the drool is so much that it reflects the image of whatever is standing right in front of it. So during this time, we all just rush to the village square and take turns to look at our reflections through the drool of the hyena. And that's how we survive without mirrors in Africa. Mia.
Bringing up black-on-black crime in a conversation about police violence is not utilitarianism. It's actually a different philosophical framework that I'll explain in the end. Here's a classic utilitarian scenario. There's a train barreling down the tracks and it's on its way to hit 3 children. You're standing next to a lever, and if you pull that lever, the train would be diverted and it only hit 1 child and killed that kid instead of the 3. Do you pull the lever to kill 1 child instead of 3? In a utilitarian framework, the answer is yes, because it'll do the most good for the most people. But in your philosophical framework, if you're standing next to that lever, having to choose between killing 3 kids and killing 1, you say, forget those kids. Their kids dying of cancer. We need to be thinking about that. Utilitarianism is about coming to the most ethical answer on a given issue. So if the issue that I'm presenting is police violence, the answer can't be but black-on-black crime. Do you pull the lever to stop police violence or do you not? Changing the subject to interpersonal crime is not utilitarianism. That's called whataboutism, and I call that bullshit.
Shit like this brings the movement down. Everyone's a feminist until there is a spider around.